Hello, YouTubers, Instagrammers, anybody who may follow me. I'm Kenny Jokers Day, also known as Jokers, as I like to affectionately call myself. My main man behind me, and also on my leg. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I got the tattoo picture, so it's proof I got the face on my leg. Anyways, after much deliberation, much contradiction, and much just overthinking the damn thing, and I'm talking months upon months upon months of overthinking the damn thing, I simply just decided, you know what? Screw it. Let's just put the videos on YouTube, and it is what it is. I wanted to speak on last Saturday. I did a poker session with a buddy of mine. His name is Cliff. You may or may not see him in the video. Who knows? But we went to Firekeepers. We went and did the tournament first, which was an $85 bounty tournament, only 10 bucks, but you know, it was a bounty tournament. Everybody loves bounty tournaments. Let's just call it for what it is. But there are some hands that I actually wanted to speak on, because in the river of run bad, I actually came up on the banks on some run good, and we are going to speak on it. So, very first hand, which I saw was a sign from the poker gods, pocket kings. Got pocket kings, we had a few limpers. I'll be damned if I'm going to let a limper see a pot with pocket kings. Just not for cheap anyways. The frickin' blinds, very beginning, were 25 and 50. So, of course, my overzealous ass has to bump it up to 325. Little greedy, yes, but I'm not letting some poor little ace, you know, ace deuce suited or ace three offsuit, see a flop for cheap and just spike an ace like that. That's just a waste of pocket kings to me. So everybody folds, I show the kings, and, you know, off to a good start. Now, on to maybe 2 or 3 hands later, I get 6 deuce of hearts. Now, I get it. Most of the time, if not all the time, it's a fold. Anybody who's anybody will tell you that. But, you know, I do have a little bit of a reputation. Not a good one. I'm trying to work myself out of it, but today was not that day. So, I raise it with 6 deuce of hearts, trying to muscle, you know, the small blind and the big blind out of it and whatnot. And small blind is having none of it. None of it whatsoever. So he re-raises me up to 700. Big blind folds. I'm like, you know what? I'm live. Just beginning of the tournament. You know, plenty of chips. Let's see a pot. Or a flop, I should say. 6 deuce of hearts, and the flop comes out 2 hearts and a jack. I don't have a pair, all I got is a flush draw. So I check, he does the telltale C-bet, and I'm calling with the expectations that I have a flush draw. Let's hope to spike a heart. Now, turn card is a deuce, pairing my deuce. Here's where it gets, I don't want to say tricky, but he gave me a tell, and I wanted to see, you know, after that tell, if I was correct or not. Because I checked it, and then he checked it. Now, if you have something on the flop, and you bet, other person calls, and then you check on the turn, I no longer think you have anything. Maybe ace high or some crap like that. Who knows? Next card that comes out is the 8 of clubs. Doesn't really improve anything. I check it. He bets out 1200. That smells incredibly like a steal. To me it does. Because if you had anything, you'd bet on the turn trying to get more value out of whatever you had to begin with. But he didn't. So, with it being 1200, I decide to hero the hell out of it. And if I look stupid, so be it. Youngest kid there, it would match, I guess. But I call, and turns out 6 deuce of hearts is good because he had ace king. Exactly what the tell I thought I saw on him was. So, hero call, 1 zip. Fast forward, I'm going to end up losing, to the hero call, 1 to like 5. But I'll get to that. Anyways, fast forward, key hands, and surprise, surprise, I actually played a hand 3 times in a row. 2 decks, because anybody who's been to a tournament in a casino, they play with 2 decks, with a little shuffler in the table and whatnot. So after each hand, you switch decks, blah, 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 blah. So the chances of getting the same hand 3 times in a row is kind of ridiculous. Just saying. But it happened, and we're going to talk about it. So, first time I'm in the small blind. I have 10-3. 10-3 of clubs, to be exact. And it's just me, small blind, big blind, and this other guy across the table. He raises it up to 325. I recognize that bet. I recognized it. I knew he had somewhat of a big hand. Maybe not a big pocket pair, but somewhat of a big hand. And the only way you're going to crack a big hand is you got to try. You can't just fold every damn time. I mean, is it optimal to chase down every big hand? No, it's not. But in the right spots, like maybe your blinds, maybe if your chip stack is good enough, which mine was, see a flop. You might be surprised. And I was. Because I had 10-3. And big blind also follows along because I think he might have the same thought process as me. Flop comes out. 10-10-6. Awesome. Just flat awesome flop for me. So, obviously I got to check. Can't be showing what I got. I'd be basically playing my hand face up. If I bet, come on now, read a book, guys. Read a book. Anyways, big blind calls. Well, not calls, checks. Duh. So dumb. Anyways, I check, he checks, and the initial raiser does what initial raisers do. They c-bet. C-bet's up to 800. It's a good, 3/4-ish bet. I decide to re-raise him because there's 2 diamonds out there. I forgot to put that in the flop, but, it really doesn't matter to me because 10-10, man, 10-10. Anyways, I re-raise him up to 2100 because I'll be damned if I'm going to let the big blind or even him see a completed flush for cheap. So I make it up to 2100 trying to ISO him. And big blind instantly folds. Good move. And the other guy, he tanks for maybe close-ish to a minute, maybe 45 seconds. Maybe. But he decides to shove all in, throwing his bounty out there, and I instantly call, and he basically calls out my hand. You got a 10? Why wouldn't I instantly call if I didn't have a 10? So I'm like, yeah, I have a 10. He has pocket kings, which I understand. I do understand. Pocket kings just didn't work out for him. Sucks. I've been there. I've been in the river of the run bad. Freaking trying to get out of it. Poker dogs jumping on me. Camera's not at a good angle so you couldn't see him, but someday you'll see him. Anywho, flop runs in my favor and we win. First hand 10-3. Very next hand, I'm the button, and I get 10-3 again, just offsuit. And it basically, limps to me. I flat call because I'm thinking nothing of it because it's not that big of a deal. So the big blind, he checks it, and the flop comes out king, queen, 10. I check, he bets, I call because, there are 2 scare cards out there and a lot of combinations he could have. I do not see him limping if any of those combinations though. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. He might have a draw, but he don't have a made hand yet. That was my thought process on that particular moment. Anywho, he bets, everybody folds, I call. Next card that comes out is a 3. So not only in my mind am I laughing my ass off right now because 10-3 is basically working twice, but check it again. He bets, I call. Because could he have a made hand? Yeah, sure. It's not that great, but I'm leaving myself enough room to, slide on out in case one of those voodoo cards comes out, putting a 4-card straight where he only needs 1 card to complete. But that is not what ends up happening. The very next card that comes out on the river is another 10. Like, oh my God. Like, flat out ridiculous. So there's no checking because I'm not going to take any chances on him. So I decide to bet out 2,200. The pot is relatively big, so a 2,200 bet is fair enough. In my mind, it's fair enough. So he thinks about it, decides to fold. And out of pure entertainment value, because I kind of feel like you have to with as shitty of a hand as 10-3 is, and anybody who's anybody will say 10-3 is pretty damn shitty. Pretty damn. I have to show it. So I showed, yeah, good fold, ha ha ha, 10-3, full house, runner kind of stuff. Okay. Fast forward to the next hand. Get 10-3 again. Now, at this particular moment, not only am I laughing in my head, at this particular point, I'm calling any hand short of an all-in. At this point. Because what are the odds that you get the same hand 3 times in a row with 2 decks? I even made this, comparison with the dealer, and even he was just like, yeah, that doesn't happen a lot, man. It really doesn't. Like, right? Anyways, comes down to, I don't know what this position is called in poker, but it's right after the button. Right after you get done having a button. Comment if you know what it's called. I really don't care at this particular moment. I know how to play poker. I just don't know the damn positions. Okay? Okay. But it goes to, a buddy, which I don't know his name. You know how sometimes you know somebody's face, but you don't know their name? Guilty. So guilty. Anyways, we recognize each other. We, make, jokes at each other and stuff. He knows my game relatively well. He raises, I call, for the reasons that I already put out. 10-3, 3 times in a row. Of course I'm gonna frickin' call, short of an all-in. But it's just me and him. And the flop comes out, king, queen, 10. First thing out of his lips, which I find hilarious, I had a really hard time not cracking a smile. He said, 10-3 ain't gonna work this time. He bets out. Really like, okay, I call. Very next card that comes out is a 3. Instantly corrects himself. Whoa, your 10-3 might work this time, but still bets. See, that right there, in and of itself, I saw as somewhat of a tell. Somewhat. Because acting scared and then betting, I'm not raising you, even though I had plenty of reason to raise them. But hindsight being 2020, probably a good thing I didn't raise them. Next card that comes out is the ace. Now, at this particular point, I know he's got something. I let him get there. It is what it is. You gotta pick your spots. You gotta pick your battles. And I kind of knew that 10-3 was running a little bit too hot for its own self. So, when he bets, and credit to him, he bet the perfect amount. Because I knew he had it won. I did. But he was operating on his perceived, thought of me having the hand that I did. So, with the pot being at like 8,000 something, and he only bet out 2,200, that is a steal just to see if, my slim chance he either missed or I just put him on a complete wrong, different hand. So, I call, entertainment value being what it was, he ended up rivering the straight. I believe he had ace-9 or some crap like that. And the jack ended up giving him a straight. It is what it is. But 10-3 wins 2 times out of 3 times in a row? Shit, I'll take that anytime. Even if you do want to call it a suck out. I'm fine with that. Anyways, next key hand. And you'll see that most of the hands that are key hands I actually won were actually not even premium cards. They were suited at best, gapped out, which the next hand I'm about to talk about is 9-7. Now, I limped. Now, I understand that limping is not necessarily the best move in any game, whether you're playing cash or tournament. But the way I've been looking at it is my shitty cards have been hit at this particular moment. And I'm not going to raise them because if somebody has a legit hand, they're going to re-raise and then I'm going to have to fold and then bam. So it's better for me, at least, in my mind, to limp, let somebody who has a more legit hand do the raising, and I can limp call. It seems legit. In my mind, it does. In this case, I have 9-7 off. The flop comes out 8-5 king with 2 spades. Alright? Now, I check. Guy next to me checks. And the initial raiser decides to bet out 800. Now, I have a gut shot, but that's all I got. A gut shot. But 800 is cheap enough for me to go ahead and see it. So I call, next guy next to me calls, and we see a turn, which is the Miracle 6. It's giving me a straight. The nut straight at this particular point. I check. Guy next to me checks. Guy in front of me, he ends up betting out 1,200. I re-raise up to 2,800 because I'm putting him on a king, a strong king, or a flush draw. And the guy next to me decides, I'm going to go all in. God, okay. So, he goes all in. The initial raiser just flat calls that all in, with not much behind for him. He must have been thinking that I was just going to fold, and I was just kind of like following along. He thought wrong, because as soon as he did his little calling thing, I decided, you know what, I'm going all in too. I'm putting you all in. He thinks about it. He starts trying to jaw jack me at the table, and when I'm not saying anything, zilch, nada, nothing, because, you know, dealer said don't, so who am I to argue with the dealer? Anywho, he ends up calling the all in. He has basically what I thought he had. He had a pair of kings with a flush draw. Guy next to me had 6-5 for 2 pair. And I had the straight. So basically I had the best hand you could possibly have. I just needed to hold. Now, the good thing on this is that I had him covered and him covered. Something to keep track of for this particular hand. The next card that comes out is not a spade, but it is a 6. Giving him, guy next to me, a full house. So he wins the main pot, but I win the guy's bounty because he did not have him covered, but I had him covered, so I get the money and his chips and stuff like that. So it works out. Anywho, next key hand in there is ace queen. Granted, you have to fast forward a good, 30, 45 minutes because the run good decided to run out. Anywho, I have ace queen, I raise, and at this particular point, everybody's still remembering run good me, who's just flopping and like nutting up on everything. And now they're just like, you know what? We're just going to call this guy all the way down because screw this guy. So, I raise it with ace queen. Guy next to me folds. This guy, who's next to him and next to the dealer, seat 10, decides to flat call. Then the guy in seat number 1 goes all in. Of course I call. In fact, I raise, trying to push this guy out, so I'm only going against one guy. So he goes all in for 4,000 something. I make it 10,000. I'm not messing around with this guy. This guy is mine. His bounty is mine. Guy's not having none of that. He's like, you know what? I'm all in too after I raise it. Not going anywhere simply because it's only 800 more. So that's what we do. We call. Here's what we're going against. Ace 4 off. Okay, I can dig that. That's the initial all-in raiser. The guy who flat called my raise and then ended up going all in after I re-raised that all in had pocket 9s. Oh, I hate going against pocket pairs. I really do. So, we have 2 all-ins, which means we have $20 worth of bounties to attempt to smack into our own pocket. So, flop comes out. And this is where I think that shuffler machine in the table really needs to work better. It literally comes out 3-3-3. Like, how do 3/4 of your threes come out at the same time? That's my only question. Anyways, comes out 3-3-3-3. Okay. 2 cards come. Next card that comes out is a 6. Okay, come on guys, come on. We need a miracle. And it comes. It comes in the form of a queen. Woo! I kind of lost it a little bit there because I thought legit that I was going to lose a bunch of damn chips. I really did. But we knocked out 2 people and we got roughly about 30 bucks in our pocket. So, with that happening, that's where the Run Bad decided to show its ugly face for the rest of that particular tournament. And though I was making the right hero calls, and I stand by every call that I made, stand by every single one, alright? It was a hero call with shitty cards. I was ahead before the hero call. But then they catch up and then they win. So, is it really that bad of a call if you're right to begin with, but then they catch up? I mean, hand in particular. It's the only one I'm going to put out there because it crippled me, and basically that was a hand that knocked me out. I have 4 deuce suited. Let's just call it hearts for the sake of a suit. He raises. I'm in the big blind. I call. The flop comes out. Jack, Jack, 4. Giving me 2 pair. Pairing up my 4, but that's kind of the point. I check it. He goes all in. Now, my thought process is, if he has a high pocket pair, which it's possible, it is very much possible, he would have gone all in pre-flop instead of waiting on a flop like this to hit. If he had a jack, he would have been trying to trap me into, trying to steal the damn pot. So I knew he didn't have a jack. And having a 4, unlikely, but it's possible. I mean, it's not like this is a professional tournament by any stretch of the imagination. Not a professional. Working on it, though. Poorly, but still working on it. But I call us all in. Hero call. Guy has ace-6. That's a fair hand. In my mind, I was right, but he caught up. Because the very next hand, or not hand, next card was an ace, and I wasn't able to catch back up. So, that kind of makes me a little bit short, but we're not out. The hand that knocked me out was King-Queen versus Ace-Queen. I did not have the Ace-Queen. I had King-Queen. So, it is what it is. The guy made the right, the right all-in, shoving me all in, basically. And I needed to make a move. It was the best hand that I had up to that point. I needed to make a move, and that was the move that I chose, and I stand by it. King-Queen does not improve against Ace-Queen. None of us catch. Ace-High wins. So, it is what it is. So, from that point, we decide to play a little bit of cash. Because my buddy is still in the tournament. Luckily, we didn't make a last longer bet because that would have irritated me. Because I like schooling him when it comes down to poker. And if he does watch this video, which I doubt, but if he does, let's call it for what it is, man. I do slightly better in tournaments than what you do. Lately, probably not as much, but it is what it is. So, we decided to go and play cash. Now, with the bounties that we won, which was about 30, maybe 40 bucks, we're able to pump the 200 that we initially brought for cash up to about 250 with a few extra dollar bills that I had in my pocket. So, I step onto the table with 250, and luckily, walking right beside me was the Run Good from the tournament. Because, I picked the right seat to sit down in. That's all I got to say about that. And I would also like to address the stereotype that nobody wants to talk about, but I live through constantly when I go to sit at the poker table. And that is the youth being ultra aggressive and not having anything to show for it. And the old people calling you down with anything and everything they possibly can have. Trying to equal the aggressiveness of the stereotype of the young person at the poker table. Because I'm not that stereotype. I'm really not. I know how to play this game. I'm not pro. I'm not Nemi. I'm not Owen. I'm not Jamin Burton. But I do know how to play this damn game. Anyways, there was no bluffing at this table. No successful bluffs, I should say. Because any and all bets I made were called. And in this particular case, it benefited me. It really did. So, by no means am I bitching, but it is what it is. Anyways, first hand that comes to my mind that old man just kept on, calling me down because he didn't believe me. Turns out he was also in the tournament with me, so I get it. But I limped in with Queen 7 suited. Queen 7 of clubs, I believe. And, this was a very limp, happy table. It was not a very good table as far as skill-wise goes. It really wasn't. Because a lot of these hands, if they would have bet pre-flop, I probably would have folded. But they didn't. So I limped, and I got to see it for cheap, and I got to make a lot of money off of it. I didn't step off with a lot of money because of, some bad beats, but I did step off with more than what I walked on. And that's important. Anywho, I had Queen 7. Flop comes out. Queen 7, 5. 2 pair. So, first to act, I check. Guy across the way, he bets out 15. Old man to my right, he flat calls. And I also flat call. Because it's not a suited board. It's not a very connected board by any stretch of the imagination. And I have to believe that my Queen 7 is pretty good right here. Split them, catch it up just a tiny bit. Next card that comes out is a 3. Again, doesn't really faze me all that much. I check. Guy next to me, on the other side of the table, he checks. Old man decides to start taking stabs. He bets out 25. Now, I'm aiming at this guy now. Because I only got one more card to get as much value as I possibly can. So, let's get the value now, essentially. So, I decided to re-raise him from 25 to 55. Not that big of a re-raise if you really want to think about it. Guy over here knows he's beat. He decides to fold instantly. And old man decides to flat call me. Okay, I can dig it. Next card that comes out is... what was it? It was a queen. Doesn't really improve anybody. Wait, it was not a queen, it was a jack. My bad. Because otherwise they would improve me to a full house. And that's not what it was. It was a jack. And I bet out 60. And he's just like, I don't believe you. Call. He has Queen 10. I have Queen 7. I have 2 pair. I win. Basically double up my stack immediately. Just because he decided that he did not believe me. Next hand in particular, and probably the last hand. Well, I mean, no, not the last hand. There's 2 more hands. And this is already a really long video. I doubt anybody's going to really pay attention to this video. But, regardless, next hand is Jack 9 offsuit. So, old man decided not to play this hand. Must have had a really crappy hand. And I limp in with Jack 9. Everybody limps. Like I said, very limp, happy table. Flop comes out, Jack 9, 3. 2 spades out there. I bet hard because it's suited. If they have spades, they're gonna call. So I bet out 20 and I get 2 callers. Woot woot. Alright. Next hand, well, next card that comes out the turn is another jack. I am no longer worried about this hand. No longer worried. But I do also know this. If I bet hard again, they're not going to call. They're just not. So I check it, making it look like I was trying to steal it, but it didn't necessarily pan out. They all check back. Best card in the deck hits. King of Spades. Giving them a flush. So, if they didn't believe me then, they probably don't believe me now. So, we bet out 60. Bam! Put it in a big stack. Guy next to me insta-calls. Again, doesn't believe in the kid. And the old man, I thought he said he was going all in. Because he threw in a couple chips and it sounded like all in, but I didn't quite hear it. So I gave him a little bit of a snark. He's like, well, I call. And they both have flushes. Perfect situation for me. I show the full house. I win another mountain of chips. And fast forward a bunch of small pots and stuff like that. I turned my 250 stack into just over $700. Now, here's where it all fell apart. And that, now I mean, granted, it wasn't all lost in that one hand that I'm about to put in, but it was just one of those things where it didn't help. I could have cashed out with like 500 something, but I ended up cashing out with 355. Anyways, very last hand was pocket fives. I raised it up to 10 because they've shown that they have the capacity to fold to 15 or 12, because last couple times I had aces and I tried making it, 15 and then 12 and everybody fucking folded. Make it 10 with pocket fives. The flop comes out after I have 4 callers. The flop comes out 7, 6, 4. Giving me an up and down straight draw. Not a bad flop for pocket fives. Now, granted, if I don't improve, then it's terrible for pocket fives. Let's just call it for what it is. Anyways, I check it. Everybody checks. This card that comes out is a 3. I bet out 20. Goes fold, fold, fold. This guy raises it up to 50. Got the damn straight. I ain't scared of nothing. Not a damn thing. So, of course, I'm going to flat call. Of course. River card, however, pairs the board. It's a 7. He checks it to me smartly. Very smartly. And stupidly, I think nothing of it. And I basically put him all in. He's got 95 left. I grabbed a stack of 100 because I'm greedy. And insta calls me. He had pocket threes. He turned 3 of a kind and then rivered the full house. And that just tore me apart. Or at the very least, tore me apart to the point to where I was just like, while he was stacking the chips that I had, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Don't deal me in. I'm done. He starts laughing at me. I'm just like, look, man, I just had $700 and I watched it basically disappear. I'm not gonna walk away from the table not having a little bit of progress. He's like, dude, I feel you. I feel you, man. So I end up cashing out for $355 for $105 in profit. And that was my Saturday. Granted, I decided that I wanted to do a bunch of online stuff, which did not pan out. because it's online, and I really need to stop doing that stuff. But you know, it's just one of those things where it's almost like having a potato chip. You can't just stop at one. You just can't. And when you love poker as much as I do, it is what it is. You just try to control as much of your losses as you possibly can. But that was my poker session of Saturday. And like I said in the beginning of the video, this was a long-awaited, what you would call debut. One shot, one try, one everything. Because unfortunately, this is on my new phone, the Note 9. And I don't know how to edit. I really don't. So basically, until I start learning how to use the computer that I have for editing and stuff like that, this is what we're going to be basically stuck with. But all in all, not really that bad, I guess. And I think, minus how long this video is, which it looks like it's just over 40 minutes, which is the longest I've talked ever, with only my dogs right here as, you know, witnesses to this insanity that is me talking to basically nothing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully my antics, what little antics I had, kept you busy or at least occupied for the 40 minutes. And if you want to see more of this, I'm gonna be, you know, posting whether I get views or not, because gotta start somewhere. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Kenny Jokers Day. I'm not a hard man to find. I do lifting, which is why this shirt goes so great for me. And I also play poker. And the whole idea is to not just beat you at the table, but beat you underneath the bar too. So, like, subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the videos. And whether you're playing poker or you're looking to lift a bunch of weights, keep on grinding. Just because you fail today does not mean you're going to fail tomorrow.